Minnesota State Senator Justin Acorn, a Republican who was arrested this week on felony charges of soliciting a minor for prostitution.
Operation I Can't Help Myself, 9 people total.
Operation I Can't Help Myself? That is a dastardly name. Jesus criminy. What's going on, everybody? It's Kmplxity here. Let's get right into this story because, dear God, is it a crazy one. If you don't know by now, Senator Acorn, I have no idea, Senator Acorn, he is a bit of a doozy, a bit of a character. He was trying to pass the Trump derangement syndrome bill that we're going to be taking a look at here. Basically, if you don't know, this will go, the MSNBC article here will go more into depth about it, but the man was trying to actually have Trump derangement syndrome listed as a mental illness. It was a bill he was trying to get through the Senate, and the majority of people in the Senate were practically laughing at him. But let's get right into it. Acorn, I'm just going to call him Acorn because it's easier, whose Senate biography notes that he is married with 4 children, had made headlines Monday just hours before his arrest. Yes, this man was arrested, and we're going to get right into why he was arrested. He's married with 4 children, that'll come into play later, had made headlines Monday just hours before his arrest for a provocative bill he co-sponsored with 3 fellow Republican senators. The legislation would classify Trump derangement syndrome as a mental illness in the state statute, ostensibly meant as a dig at President Trump's critics. Who could have thought? The bill states Trump derangement syndrome means the acute onset of paranoia in otherwise normal persons that is in reaction to the policies and presidencies of President Donald J. Trump. Symptoms may include Trump-induced general hysteria, which produces an inability to distinguish between legitimate policy differences and signs of physical pathology in President Donald J. Trump's behavior. Trump derangement syndrome is a term popular among the president's supporters who deride critics as being irrationally fixated on him. A version of this phrase has been used to pejoratively describe critics of past presidents, as well as including Barack Obama and George W. Bush. Yeah, they're not wrong. Trump's billionaire megadonor Elon Musk also recently used the term to criticize progressives who he said had turned on him after he spent more than $250 million to help elect Trump. The bill was roundly ridiculed by Minnesota Democrat State Senator Majority Leader Erin Murphy, calling it possibly the worst bill in Minnesota history. If it is meant as a joke, it is a waste of staff time and taxpayer resources that trivialize serious mental health issues. If the authors are serious, it is an affront to free speech and an expression of a dangerous level of loyalty to an authoritarian president, Murphy said. Now, this could be a joke. This could be real. I'm going to be honest. When it comes to Republicans, some of y'all, at least in power, at least political Republicans, like people who are senators and stuff of that nature, y'all really just fell behind in the times as it is. I'm just saying, sorry, but like, this is a joke. It's a meme. It's an absolute meme when people say this type of stuff. And if you believe it, if you actually believe there's such a thing as Trump derangement syndrome, I mean, is there some people who have hysteria with it? Yeah, absolutely. Would I call it a mental illness? I'd call it more of a fixation, but it is what it is. But our good old Senator Acorn, this isn't what I wanted to talk about when it came to you. Senator Acorn here was actually caught up in a pedo sting. Yes, he was. Let's go to the top here, where it says Minnesota State Senator Justin Acorn resigned from his position on Thursday morning, just ahead of his Senate vote on his possible expulsion. In other words, he quit before he could be fired. Minnesota State Senator Justin Acorn, a Republican who was arrested this week on felony charges of soliciting a minor for prostitution. Police said after he allegedly tried to meet up with an officer who posed as a 17-year-old girl. Acorn, 40, of Grand Rapids, traveled to Bloomington for the meeting and was arrested without incident, according to police. As a 40-year-old man, if you come to Orange Jumpsuit District looking to have sex with someone's child, you can expect that we are going to lock you up, Bloomington Police Chief Booker Hodges said in a new release. Now, I do know a little bit about this. Unfortunately, there is going to be a couple of struggles here. Some things that Acorn's attorneys are going to argue is that the ad or whatever, the advertisement or whatever it is, basically in the beginning he was advertised an 18-year-old. Now at the same time, regardless if it is somebody who is of age or is a minor, obviously a minor would be worse, but if even if it's somebody of age, you still cannot solicit them for sexual encounters. It is prostitution and it is illegal. However, on the other hand, if you were with an adult, you had slept with them, and then you had given them a gift, that is not something that is solicitation, which is one of the reasons why prostitution or prostitutes, streetwalkers, you can get arrested for. But when it comes to these like girlfriend experiences or I forget the actual name for it, but basically companions, as they like to be called in their industry, it's not illegal due to the fact that no money or goods is actually exchanged for the product. But we all know what's happening at the end of the night. Now, what we do know, at least what I do know, is that at the time before meeting this the undercover police officer, Acorn was actually told by the undercover police officer that they were actually 17 years old and not 18. So let's go ahead, take a look at these two videos of, and they might go into depth about what's actually going on. But if you guys, real quick, if you like what you see, if you enjoy the things that we cover, don't forget to hit the like, subscribe, leave a comment on your thoughts about this type of stuff. Do you believe in President Trump derangement syndrome? Do you believe that this guy might have been, what's the word, he might have been some of his rights might have been infringed upon? Who knows? Personally, for me, the moment he learned that the girl was 17, regardless if it was an undercover person or not, get him out of here, stop what they're doing. And you just, bro, like, if you got to pay for the box, it's one thing. Like, yes, people will make fun of you, but it's, you at least do it in a way that isn't illegal and doubly illegal, federally illegal when it comes to a minor. Let's see what's going on, y'all.
All right, let's take you over to Minnesota now, where a state Senate Republican just resigned. This after 40-year-old Senator Justin
Eichorn. Well, I'm still calling you Acorn.
Was charged with allegedly soliciting sex from a minor. Let's bring in CBS News correspondent Chanel Call for more on this story. Chanel, can you break down this case for us?
Yeah, so we've been following this story all day, Liz, and can now confirm that Minnesota Republican State Senator Justin Eichorn has resigned. Now, this happened in the wake of some pretty damning allegations coming from federal prosecutors, and there was also, Liz, growing pressure from lawmakers really on both sides of the aisle here. Now, just to
I would actually hope so. I mean, any Republican that's turning around and trying to, go to bat for this dude, lock them up too. Check their hard drives.
For viewers, federal prosecutors say Eichorn began messaging someone who he thought was 17 years old on March 11th. As it turned out, he was actually communicating with an undercover officer. Now, during those
Acorn looks like an absolute dweeb. He's even got an acorn haircut. Like, if you put that little acorn on top of his head, maybe it's just me. Maybe I just dislike pedo so much that I'm just looking for any reason to hate on the guy. Other than that, I mean, really, do you need more? He looks like an absolute dweeb. But you have to also remember, this man has 4 kids and a wife. And he was like, you know what I need? He needs to be with a minor. That was his whole agenda, is he wanted to be with a minor. And that's somebody's daughter, bro. Well, obviously it was an undercover cop, but at the end of the day, if it wasn't, like, it's a fucking minor. You're a senator. People are just absolutely disgusting. And let's not pretend like there aren't senators and there aren't people or politicians on both sides of the aisle that do this shit.
An undercover officer had multiple times said this purported girl was 17 years old. Despite that, this conversation continued, and Eichorn allegedly asked for several photos. How did this happen? Well, prosecutors say Eichorn answered an online ad that was part of a bigger.
So that's the ad that I was talking about. So in that ad, I don't actually have the ad. I could potentially look for it. If I do look for it and find it, you'll see it right now. But I do believe, from what I've heard from some lawyers who have gone over this, is that, and by some lawyers that have gone over this, I mean that lawyers on YouTube who are actual lawyers like Bruce Rivers, stating that in the actual advertisement, the woman was, or the undercover officer posed as an 18-year-old, only then to tell the people who answered the ad that they were 17. So there could be a bit of an issue there, just somewhat of an issue. And I know a lot of people are like, an issue? What's the issue? Well, legal standards and stuff of that nature. Yes, he continued to engage. I'm not a lawyer. I don't know this, but I do know is that a lot of these people have the ability to purchase high-priced lawyers that can find loopholes to get them off. That was a bad word. That was a bad phrasing to use.
Broader operation that targets sex trafficking. On Monday, authorities say that he was supposed to meet up with that alleged teenager, and that's when he was charged with attempted coercion or enticement of a minor. On Tuesday, Liz, he was booked into jail, and he's now being held there without bail. But of course, that is what fueled this fallout at the state capitol. Last night, we heard from Senate GOP leader Mark.
Imagine Mr. Acorn just being there like, yes, I'm resigning. Don't ask me why, but it has to do with my penis and a 17-year-old. So just leave it alone. Fucking Christ, man. You have a wife. If you're unhappy, get divorced. Like, oh my goodness. This dude is out here freaking spawn camping.
And he had said that, look, we're not going to wait for Eichhorn to resign. Instead, I'm going to be putting forth a motion to remove him before that happens.
Hell yeah.
Now, that session was slated to kick off at noon today. But before that happened, just a few minutes before that happened, we got word into our newsroom that Eichhorn had resigned.
Somebody told him. Let's just be realistic here. Somebody told him that they were trying to give him the boot, and he knew it would look better for himself to resign rather than getting the boot. I mean, you might say, how does that make him look better? Like, let's be honest. If you know you're about to get fired from your job, it looks better if you quit, so that way you can spin a narrative. Unfortunately for this guy, everybody knows the narrative, so bye-bye.
And Chanel, you're keeping an eye on another big story. The Taliban releasing a Delta Airlines mechanic who was detained by Taliban authorities for more than 2 years.
Well, now.
What are the details in this story?
Right, so Liz, the State Department is saying George Glassman, who was held by...
Well, that was that portion of it. So like I said, there was an ad. He answered the ad. He took a look. The undercover agent told him that they were underage, continued to proceed with it. I don't know the actual dollar amount that he was offering. It doesn't really matter at this point, but it seems as though it's a open and shut case. Dude knew that the person was 17, crossed, got in his car, decided he wanted to go get a beach for some cash, and ended up getting arrested. So let's take a look at this other video here.
Some new details tonight about why a former state senator charged in a prostitution ring may not be getting out of jail at all. The U.S. Attorney's Office saying that Justin Eichhorn is a...
Now, like I said, I do know a little bit about this. That wife of his, I hope you weren't complicit in any of this. And unfortunately, it does seem like she was. Sources state that Eichhorn had, and I believe it's going to go over it in this video, that Eichhorn had actually turned around and asked his wife if she could grab his laptop from his home and hide it. Unfortunately for her, the police was already going through their house and had seized the laptop prior to her being able to enter the residence. That's from what I know.
Risk and tried to have a laptop and phone retrieved from his apartment before investigators could get them. Fox 9's Rob Olson joining us.
So here's the thing. If you are eliciting a minor for sexual gratification and you want somebody to grab your laptop, most likely because it's got some evidence on there, emails, iMessenger, who knows what it could potentially be, but everybody's thinking, okay, homeboy got a little bit of the C. He got some videos, some pictures. He's probably not, this probably isn't his first time doing it. So We'll see what happens. We will see what happens. As far as I understand, and this is the craziest thing that I've heard, is that within the Minnesota district and that state, I don't know, no, I think it's federally, you need about 600 media forms of said product to be able to get the mandatory minimum of 10 years, I believe it is 10 or 15 years.
According to some reports, his wife was called from jail to say, hey, look, can you go to my house and get my laptop? And when she went there, the FBI was already there doing the search warrant. Now, here's the thing. What does that tell you? That tells you there's something on his fucking laptop. That tells you that that guy is jerking his fucking wiener to child porn. I guarantee you they're going to. So this solicitation of a minor is going to be nothing compared, because you only need, I think, 600 images to get up to 15 years in prison, mandatory minimum, that the judge can't do anything about.
I'm going to be honest, one should be enough. 600, I'm not entirely sure. I can look into that some more. If I do end up looking into that more and I find the statute, I'll put it up right here. If not, I mean, again, like I said, I'm willing to be wrong on it.
From Bloomington police tonight. And Rob, the police chief in Bloomington talked today about all of those who are arrested in this sting. But let's begin with the new federal motion to keep Eichorn behind bars. What is their evidence?
Well, they had talked about in this motion that came in yesterday on a Sunday, which is unusual, but they talked about a couple of jailhouse phone conversations that Eichorn had with an unnamed person, individual A, they called them, on
that is most likely his wife.
Wednesday and Thursday, talking about a laptop in his St. Paul apartment. Legislators have apartments during the session, and a phone that was there. He had a couple of phones with him at the time when he was arrested, but there was another one in the apartment, and they were talking about making arrangements to go retrieve those. So the FBI did a search warrant on Friday, held the scene secure until the warrant started. They say they stopped a woman from Grand Rapids, which is
most likely his wife.
Eichorn is from going into the apartment. She said she needed to get the laptop. In there, they did find a red bag with his laptop in it and a phone which had been factory reset. But they also found a handgun and ammunition and about $1,000 in cash. Now, the handgun is important because in his his intake questioning before his detention hearing, he said that he did have a gun, but he did not have a gun at his apartment in St. Paul. So the federal authorities here, the U.S. attorney, said he lied about that, and they believe that he was trying to retrieve this laptop and phone.
Okay, so he said that he had a gun, but that he didn't have a gun at his apartment. Is that what I'm getting?
Kind of his intake questioning before his detention hearing, he said that he did have a gun, but he did not have a gun at his apartment in St. Paul.
Okay, so he did have a gun, but he didn't have a gun at the apartment that they searched. Unfortunately for him, he lied. So that could potentially be seen as impeding an investigation. Unfortunately, you're not allowed to lie to the police. You're not allowed to withhold any information from the police if you're under investigation or in their investigation. This, I don't know the statute, but I do know that it's hindering an investigation or being non-compliant, which could add time on to your sentence if the police decide to go forth with those charges as well. Most likely they're not going to, because they have him so dead to rights on the solicitation. They might tack it on if for whatever reason, but at the end of the day, it's like, if you have such a solid case like this dude actually trying to meet up with a 17-year-old in order to pay them for sexual gratification, there's no real reason to tack on all those other things, but who knows, they might. You could say that, oh yeah, well, they might want to tack it on to add more time. Generally speaking, you're looking at from my understanding, you're looking at a couple extra months, or it could even be pled down to a fine. So who knows? We'll have to see what, as time goes on, what might happen.
So the federal authorities here, the U.S. attorney, said he lied about that, and they believe that he was trying to retrieve this laptop and phone potentially for evidentiary reasons. They don't know for sure, but that is
most
their
likely.
assumption when some circumstances like that happen. That had been, again, the phone had been reset, factory reset. They noted that could be done remotely by somebody with access to the account. Early indication.
So it sounds like a homeboy is trying to cover his tracks. Factory resetting it. Listen, guys, the FBI, there's a reason they have a 98 percentile conviction rate. They don't fuck around. They don't fuck around. They have the entire weight of the US government behind them to be able to do all of these crazy things, okay? The stuff you see in movies, it's not just in movies. It's not science fiction anymore. You know, it's reality. Being able to recover information, I mean, metadata, nothing's ever truly deleted, you know? That's one of the reasons why they say the best password protection is a pen and paper. You know, it's just one of those things where you can delete it, it might be gone, but the FBI has been able to recover information off of hard drives that have been at the bottom of a fucking lake for years on end. It's just one of those things. We're gonna have to wait and see exactly what they are able to retrieve from the laptop, from the phones, what they might be able to retrieve from anybody who decides to come forward. I highly doubt this was his first time, but I will withhold any assertion on that.
It was done prior to the arrest, but they're still trying to look into what that means. So in the meantime, again, they want to keep him behind bars because they say he's a flight risk here, and he lied about the weapon.
Yeah, definitely
Rob,
needs to be there.
Bloomington Police Chief talking about this larger sting today. It's called Operation I Can't Help Myself. 9 people total.
Operation I Can't Help Myself? That is a dastardly name. Jesus criminy.
Did he mention if they knew that Justin Eichhorn was a public official when they arrested him?
Yeah, they said they did not. Now, the title of this sting operation, the flair here from the Bloomington Police Chief, Booker Hodges, known for having a little bit of personality, we should say. He said he named this after a Four Top song, and with each person arrested said he couldn't help himself, he couldn't help himself. When it came to Eichhorn, he said he found out after the fact when another law enforcement said, hey, you have a state senator in your jail, which is when he discovered that that was the case.
Let's be realistic. Most people don't know who their immediate politicians are. Like, do you know the mayor of your city, the mayor of your county, your state representative? Not a lot of people do know that. I mean, when it comes to governors, it's a little bit more known because they're in the public eye a lot more, you know? So who knows? But at the end of the day, it's a good thing that they learned that, because you never know who might be coming around to try and bail that person out.
And again, he did mention that normally they let people out in situations like this. That has changed, which is why Eichhorn wound up being behind bars long enough for those federal charges to come into. Take a listen.
Nice.
One of the things our detectives have really gotten good at now is a lot of times these folks would get booked and released, like charged and released from the scene. Now we start holding them overnight, so when someone starts looking for them, they can't go home and just say, oh, I got caught in traffic or something. But
basically what he's trying to say is that they want the family to know. When motherfuckers are out here trying to make excuses, trying to be sneaky, trying to hold it down, trying to not let anybody know what ended up happening, what he's saying is when your people are trying to figure out what you are, like where you are, because you can be held up to 48 hours without any not provocation, but without any charges being levied against you. And 48 hours as an adult is, I mean, not even 48 hours, 24 hours is the typical wait time that you have to allow to pass prior to filing a missing persons. So when you're charged with this and being held, people are going to look for you. And the first person, once they get down the list of all the people who might know where you are, the next call is to 911. And they can turn around and say, hey, I have a missing persons, this is their name, Mr. Eichhorn, look it up, Eichhorn in the system. Oh, that's right, he's booked on soliciting a minor. So this police chief is like, no, you ain't sweeping this under the rug. You ain't gonna do your little time. You ain't gonna be caught in something this egregious, and your family isn't gonna find out.
I had no idea who he was.
And then they found out. Now, there was supposed to be a release tomorrow, his detention hearing last week. He was going to be released to a halfway house, and that was set to take place tomorrow. But now with this motion to hold him indefinitely, that is put on hold. There is a new detention hearing now Wednesday morning in federal court in St. Paul. Back to you.
All right, Rob, thank you.
Personally, I think that anybody who is arrested with evidence on a sexual charge, especially one involving a minor, I'm not a fan of having them being caught and released, but at the same time, prisons are overcrowded enough as it is. I'm totally down with them being basically bagged and tagged. Well, let me rephrase the bag part. a stay indoors order plus being tagged. And what I mean by that is house arrest with an ankle monitor, because like they said, they typically will catch and release these people, and they might run, they might go do it again in the time it takes for their hearing to pop up. So that's just a risk that police have taken because of overcrowding, I would imagine. But hey, if you want to tag them and make sure that they have to stay within a set range, absolutely. I think that anybody who is under investigation with evidence, solid evidence like this in a sting operation, it's totally okay to release them so long as they have an ankle monitor on them. That's me. House arrest all the way. I mean, if they cut it off, now they're facing federal time. They might have been, they might have beaten the charge of the solicitation or whatever, but cutting off an ankle monitor, that's a federal offense. So, is what it is.
And with Justin Eichhorn now out of the state Senate, there will be a special election to fill that seat. So far, 4 candidates have announced their intent to run. On the Republican side, you have Jennifer Carnahan, former chair of the Minnesota GOP and mayor of Nisswa. She says she's running for District 6. Josh Gazelka, son of former Senator Paul Gazelka, will also run. Carry sixth term in the Minnesota House. And then,
well, guys, this is wild. Okay, this is just another crazed. I'm sorry. Like, if you support Trump, I understand you support your candidate and everything, but you got to watch the people that you're around. As they say, you are judged by the company you keep. You are judged by the people you support. And guilty by association, a whole lot of things. Now, am I saying Trump is a pedophile? No, that's not what I'm saying. What I am saying, on the other hand, is that he doesn't have the cleanest record. He's sued and isn't able to do business in New York anymore or whatever. I forget exactly, but I do believe it's in New York that he's no longer allowed to do business in because of his shitty business practices, the fact that he lied on the Forbes list and did faulty numbers. The fact that he took, White House documents to Mar-a-Lago. Yes, Biden did it too. Both of them are idiots. Both of them should face repercussions for it. There's just a multitude of reasons why, but I boil it down to a much simpler example. We all know Drake is likes him young. Okay, everybody knows that Drake likes him young, and one of Drake's biggest supporters was DJ Academics, and DJ Academics had his own little scandal not too long ago where he was trying to solicit a 15-year-old, I think it was 16-year-old. We did a video on it where basically he was trying to ask him if he'd let another 40-year-old man hit if he was gay. So it is what it is, man. You got to watch, birds of a feather flock together, bro. It's just some weirdness going on out there. And this isn't the first, Trump supporter and political Trump supporter who has been caught doing some shit. I mean, there's Rudy Giuliani. There's his former lawyers. I know Rudy Giuliani is a former lawyer, but there's just a lot of former people of Trump that is basically gone down. And this is no different. So we'll catch you guys in the next time. Maybe we'll react to Bruce Rivers. He did a video on this, so we might go ahead and react to what he's doing. But until next time, guys, I am Kmplxity. Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Do you agree with me that catch and release should only be done if there's an ankle monitor? Do you believe that you don't care about overcrowding? Keep them locked up? What exactly is it that you guys feel? Let us know in the comments below. And as always, like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoy the content. Later.